The anxiety in Atlanta was palpable right away, like static in the atmosphere. The back and forth between Rasheeda and Yandy had previously been seen by the audience. Nobody anticipated that the night would turn into the shocking headlines for a conflict that had been smoldering for weeks, creating waves presently. On social media, whispers began to circulate. Fans were astounded by one astounding allegation, and blogs erupted with conjecture. Yes, Rasheeda's own husband, Kirk Frost, is said to have lost it during the tense confrontation and directed his rage at Yandy. Is this simply another bizarre rumor stirring things up? Or did Kirk actually attack her? Insiders said the disagreement reached an uncontrollable boiling point. Even though the cameras may not have captured every detail, love and hip-hop fans are shocked by the prospect of Kirk entering the battlefield. Driven by pride, treachery, and growing accusations, could the man who usually acts as a composed mediator truly lose control in such a visible manner? This evening, we're delving deeply into what transpired, what was said, and why fans think this could be the most explosive development in the ongoing story of Rasheeda Yandy, and now Kirk. Every angry phrase that came out of Rasheeda and Yandy's mouth seemed to choke the room, adding to the already tense mood. Viewers assumed they would witness just another verbal altercation. Nobody could have predicted how deeply the night would cut, despite a few suspicious comments and possibly some rolling eyes. Yandy entered with assurance. She questioned Rasheeda about marriage and past podcast disclosures in a steady voice with a harsh tone. She was hurling charges like daggers, without holding back. Even though it was shrouded in exaggeration, her remarks were full with the kind of truth that burns. But Rasheeda was not going to be trapped. After months of hearing her name thrown around like gossip on a street corner, she became impatient and lashed back. The conversation quickly became heated as each woman tried to outshout the other by hurling insults across the table. The adjacent audience shuffled uneasily, caught between astonishment and excitement. At first, Kirk Frost sat in the background with his arms folded and an unreadable expression. Usually, he remained composed and let Rasheeda manage her own struggles. However, this evening was unique. Fans saw Kirk's jaw tighten and his eyes narrow as Yandy's accusations became more pointed and she tossed Jasmine's name into the fire. It wasn't just another argument between two women nowadays. His pride, his family, and even his reputation had begun to suffer as a result. Yandy leaned in and asked Kirk about his involvement in the long-running scandals that had plagued Rasheeda for years. Her voice full of contempt. She scoffed, "You act like your house is spotless. The streets, however, recall every detail. Jasmine, the drama, the baby, the lies, and you'd want to come get me." The words lingered in the atmosphere, like a ticking time bomb. Pushing back, Rasheeda slammed her hand on the table and raised her voice above the commotion. "You have no right to bring up my marriage once more. Talking about me and mine like it's your work has become your obsession. Tell me directly if you have a lot to say." The back and forth turned into an emotional hurricane, the kind of intense intensity that reality TV thrives on. They were surrounded by people who attempted to defuse the situation, but it was like splashing water on a wildfire. It just blazed brighter and hissed. At last, Kirk moved forward. As he sliced through the tumult, his composed exterior cracked. He muttered, his voice low but full of rage, "Enough." The gaze shifted to him. The man who seldom intervened in the drama involving women is now on the front lines, never one to back down. Yandy crossed her arms and grinned. "Oh, you want to discuss now? Where did this energy go when the blogs were covered in your mess? Do not assume that I am unaware of the true situation." The shade sliced deeper than before, causing the room to gasp. As his wife's name appeared, Kirk's expression darkened and his tolerance began to crumble. His own years and scandals of stress were brought to light. With a voice stronger than anyone could have predicted, Kirk yelled, "You think you can just throw dirt on my name and walk away? You don't know when to stop talking and dragging." Insiders later reported that he clenched his hands at his sides and twitched the muscles in his arms as if he was about to act. His words trembled with restrained rage. Although there was no footage of Kirk making a physical action, the rumors that followed suggested came perilously close to crossing that boundary. With a hold on his arm and an earnest voice, Rasheeda attempted to pull him back, but Yandy continued to feed the flames, saying, "Kirk, don't give her what she wants. Look at you," she scoffed, about to lose it in front of everyone. "That's your issue. You're unable to accept the reality that your wife has been supporting you for years. And you're still attempting to act like you're the man," he said, causing the audience to erupt in nervous laughter and gasps as their energy spiraled out of control. Security was called for by someone in the rear, but no one had yet to intervene. Kirk's voice was suddenly loud and his face was flushed. "You must keep an eye on yourself. Don't mention my name. I can assure you that you will regret talking about my family." Even though there was no actual assault, the threat was enough to make many shudder. People in the vicinity said they had never seen Kirk so clearly agitated and tense. The way Rasheeda's eyes darted anxiously between her husband and Yandy, as if she understood this, was noted by fans who later repeatedly replayed the event on social media, was a moment that had the potential to spin out of control. In contrast, Yandy appeared nearly content, as though she had accomplished her goal: bring Kirk to his knees, reveal his flaws, and leave him furious in front of everyone. The battle itself evolved into more than simply words. It was coated with buried feelings, unresolved betrayals, and years of rumors. Kirk was dragged through headlines he wished he could remove after being implicated previously. However, having Yandy toss it, the ultimate trigger, was in his face during a furious altercation with Rasheeda. With each insult cutting deeper and each stare fanning the flames, the drama became raw. Even so, none could have predicted how far it would go, how much more poison would be expelled prior to the night over, or whether Kirk's rage would burn into something that no one could take back or be contained by reason. Kirk's threat was followed by a deep, nearly oppressive stillness, as if everyone in the room was holding their breath. People muttered to each other, and phones were held in unsteady hands with a slight tilt, while others were too astonished to even push record. Others attempted to capture the event. It was uncommon to witness Kirk go this far and enter the limelight of mayhem. However, that evening had taken away his typical composure and exposed a guy who was cornered. In front of everyone, his pride burst. A sneer on Yandy's lips only served to stoke the flames. With a mocking tone, she reclined on her chair. "Kirk, you sound really tough right now, but we all know you've been exposed before. And nothing you say is going to erase what people already know. Tough doesn't change the facts," she said in a steady tone, but her words were like acid poured over new wounds. Rasheeda's eyes glowed with rage. Caught between protecting her husband and silencing the lady who had grown to be her most vocal competitor, with frustrated hands, Rasheeda yelled, "Girl, don't get it twisted. You've been out here. You're not fooling anyone, and all the noise you make about me is merely a cover-up for your own mess. Let's not act as though your house is in order. You're making a reputation out of my marriage, twisting every little rumor like it's gospel." Rasheeda's voice cracked slightly, which fans who later analyzed the video couldn't help but notice. The burden of suppressing years' worth of repressed feelings, not weakness. The back and forth was no longer merely amusing. It was honest, intimate, and on the verge of becoming more than just words. Kirk remained still. His breathing was labored, and his fists remained clenched. Grand speeches were not his speciality, but when he eventually spoke once more, and the room became silent. "It's okay if you want to discuss my past. It's okay if you want to drag my family, but be aware that there is a cue when you approach me in that manner. You also crossed it." Though his eyes sent a different message, his words were firm. Behind them, a storm was raging. Yandy remained unflinching. She lowered her voice just enough to cause everyone to lean in, if anything, nearer to hear. "I might have crossed it. Perhaps you simply dislike that I was honest. In any case, it burns when people see you for who you really are." Rasheeda slammed her hand on the table once more, glaring at Yandy while her bangles clattered. "Truth. If the truth hit you in the face, you wouldn't recognize it. From the beginning, you have been completely enamored with me. Interviews, podcasts, and side remarks all revolve around me as if I'm the focal point of your universe. But let me be really clear about this. You are not the center of my existence." The stress was intolerable. Friends attempted to step in. Voices pleading for calm broke through the cacophony. "It's not worth it. Calm." However, the train had already jumped the rails and could not be stopped. Now it was more than a brawl. It was a struggle between pride, vanity, and years of damaged reputations. A spectator. "You can't silence her, Rasheeda. She's speaking what people already thinking," said one of Yandy's friends, which only made the situation worse. Increased the fire's intensity, drawing more loudly. Gas from the throng. With a stern expression, Kirk whipped his head towards the direction of the voice. "Stay out of this," he said, his voice cutting over the commotion. The space was electric. The storm is fueled by every stare, sneer, and harsh word. Later, viewers compared the energy to watching a slow-motion volcano explode, saying it was nearly intolerable. Every time someone believed the battle was at its best, another deeper animosity was revealed when the covering peeled back. Yandy's smirk faded into something colder as her face tightened. "Kirk, let me tell you what's wrong. The fact that someone finally had the courage to voice what others have been whispering about for years is intolerable. Your brand, your name, your supposedly ideal family. Everything is cracked, and you strike out rather than confront it." Kirk took a step closer, his voice trembling with passion. "Lash out. Do you consider this to be lashing out? No, I'm telling you this one final time. Don't talk about my family. I can assure you that you won't like how it ends if you continue to cross me." The impact of his remarks was like a hammer. Moreover, the danger hung thick in the air, even though he didn't move past it. With anger in her eyes, Rasheeda turned to Yandy in an attempt to alleviate the situation. "Let's not act like you're the victim here, even though you continue to drag my spouse. You prod, poke, and agitate drama in order to remain current. Do you think that's why people appreciate you? They can see right through you now. You've now finished messing with the incorrect one." Voices were heaped on top of one another as the shouting persisted. A barrage of charges and defenses. Subsequently, many said that you could practically feel the raw emotion via the TV. Neither side was prepared to concede, and feelings were running high. As it appeared, the bout might crumble under its own weight. A startling turn of events appeared out of the blue. At last, a close friend of Rasheeda who had been silently watching intervened. "You talk about receipts all the time, Yandy, but would you like me to extract what I know? Do you really want that smoke?" Yandy's self-assured expression faltered for the first time, and everyone in the room gasped once more. The change was slight yet significant. "You don't know nothing about me," Yandy shot back, her eyes narrowing as her sneer shattered. "You're just another one of her lapdogs," she said, although there was a hint of uncertainty in her voice due to the stress. Once more, there was a sense of curiosity in the air. What mysteries might be hiding in the shadows, just waiting to be discovered? Later, fans claimed that this was the point at which the fight changed from a private altercation to a spectacle that drew everyone in the room into the drama. Speculation buzzed like electricity as whispers quickly circulated. What did the companion of Rasheeda do? Understand? Was Yandy concealing something more significant than anyone had anticipated? There was still a raging fire between Kirk and Yandy, but there was more tension now. Kirk's body was stiff, his eyes unwavering. Yet even he appeared briefly sidetracked by the new assertion, as if pondering the extent of this rabbit hole. Even so, nobody dared to go. Not after expectations had already been dashed by the evening. Not when everything could be altered by the next phrase. The moment Rasheeda's friend revealed that bombshell, the room exploded once more. It was like adding petrol to an already uncontrollably raging fire. Voices overlapped. People gasped, and Yandy's self-assured grin started to wane as curiosity took the place of astonishment, desperate to learn what kind of secret receipts might be concealed between those words. The throng came in closer, their eyes wide. Even Kirk, whose anger had been the focal point just moments earlier, paused, his gaze shifting sharply towards the new voice in the room. "Games," Yandy said, her voice still forceful but tinged with discomfort. With a trace of defensiveness, she said, "If you have something to say, then say it, but don't stand there acting like you know my life better than me." Rasheeda sneered and fixed her gaze on Yandy, saying, "See? That's the difference between me and you. I stand on mine." That was all it took for Rasheeda to strike. "I don't quiver when my name is mentioned because I know where I stand. But your entire expression changes the moment someone threatens to expose you. Are you afraid? Terrified of what? Please. I've been through more than you can fathom, yet I'm still standing. If anybody here should be terrified, it's you, and you better watch it," Kirk said, his jaw tightening as he fixed his gaze on Yandy, as if her words were razors cutting through his patience. "You've been hiding skeletons for years, and you hate it when somebody shines a light on them," he said. "You think you know everything, but you don't. he said in a low, menacing voice. "You're going to go somewhere you don't want to go if you keep talking about me and mine." The stress was intolerable. Later, fans claimed that at any moment, the scene seemed like it would turn into something tangible. Even those sitting at home felt their pulse increase due to the raw intensity. But when Rasheeda's companion spoke out again, the drama took a different turn rather than blowing up at that very moment. Louder and more intentional this time. "You talk about receipts all the time, Yandy, but what about the things you haven't said? What about the folks you've deceived in order to advance? Do you wish to criticize families, marriages, and errors? Okay, but remember that there are skeletons in your closet as well. And I'll drag them out immediately if necessary." The air was filled with gasps. Yandy's expression went cold. For a moment, she stopped making her normal fast comebacks. She shook her head in an attempt to maintain her position. Forced chuckle. "Please don't frighten me. For years, people have been attempting to undermine me, and guess what? I remain here. I'll be here forever." However, her laugh was not as loud as her eyes flickered with doubt. With a strong voice, Rasheeda leaned forward. "You see, that's the problem. You attack everyone else, but you lose it the moment someone even suggests that they might attack you. You wish to discuss obsession. You think I wouldn't notice that you've been fixated on me, my marriage, my husband, and my family. Girl, the drama is now living for you, but you live for the drama." The crowd stirred, some murmuring in shock, others nodding in agreement. "Kirk, but I wasn't going to let the opportunity pass without exerting further pressure. You've been stirring the pot all these years," he replied in a sharp, deep voice. "Don't pretend to be untouchable though. One day, the reality you believe you're going to be completely engulfed by what you're so proud of. Don't claim that no one warned you when it occurs." Yandy gave him a glass-cutting glare. "Do you believe you can scare me? No. I don't submit to anyone. When I want, I say what I want. And if that bothers you, perhaps you ought to examine yourself closely." Once more, Rasheeda lost her tolerance. "Please girl, all that big talk. You know the truth. Though, deep down, you're not brave, you're just noisy." Additionally, there is a significant difference. Beneath the surface, the tension boiled and simmered, similar to lava that is about to erupt. The intensity of the energy was nearly intolerable. Everyone in the room was tense, waiting to see who would crack first. Later, fans replayed the event on social media, analyzing every look, smirk, and twitch dot of Kirk's hands as though looking for hints. Then came another unexpected twist. One of the producers attempted to intervene, obviously concerned that the mayhem would get out of hand. "Look, we need to cool this down." With his hands up, he spoke. "This is going too far." However, the appeal was immediately muffled as Rasheeda's voice broke through the clutter once more. "Now is not the time to try to save her." Rasheeda growled. This was what she desired. She is now receiving the moment she begged for. "Wait till I've finished speaking before intervening." With a strained grimace, the producer retreated, perhaps certain that nothing could halt the storm until it burned itself out. With a voice as harsh as shattered glass, Yandy leaned forward. "Do you really believe that your small group of pals can ruin me? No. I've made it through worse. They've dragged me. I've been duped. I've been abandoned to the wolves. And you know what? I returned as the leader of the group. Therefore, if you believe that a few baseless threats can frighten me, I have another item planned." Kirk was unmoved by her harsh words. His voice trembled with suppressed wrath as he moved closer, his presence towering greater than before. "Yandy, keep chatting. Continue prodding the bear. But when it bites back, don't cry." The crowd erupted in gasps once more. Everyone was frozen by the sheer force of his comments. "Don't let her get you down, Kirk. It's not worth it with her." Kirk, however, continued to gaze at Yandy. The tension in the air between them the room was so dense that it seemed like it might blow up. It was later described by fans as one of the most surprising moments in hip-hop and love history. Every moment seemed like it may be the tipping point in this struggle of wills. However, even as there was an odd feeling that something even greater was still to happen, as the yelling persisted and accusations and threats flew like sparks in the dark. Nobody was prepared for how far the storm would take them. Even if the night had already brought turmoil, every eye in the room was flitting between Kirk, Yandy, and Rasheeda as if they were seeing the formation of a storm in real time. And the atmosphere was heavy with tension. Nobody was brave enough to speak over the mayhem anymore. No longer dared to speak above the mayhem. Everyone was paralyzed by the prospect of what could occur next. Kirk had a brightness that could cut through stone. The problem was made worse by Yandy's unwillingness to back down. It resembled seeing the collision of two immovable forces. With Rasheeda trapped in the center and frantically trying to save her world from collapsing in front of the cameras, at last, Rasheeda's voice could be heard, louder and more urgent than before. Enough. My family is still being dragged by you. You continue to play with the name of my husband. Let me tell you something though. This is where it ends. I won't allow you to use my suffering as a platform. I've put forth too much effort, made too many sacrifices, and endured too many hardships for you to change my tale. Her chest expanded and plummeted with each utterance. Even though she was trying to exude power, her hands were shaking and her emotions were raw. Yandy shook her head and laughed angrily, as though Rasheeda's remarks were just theatrical. Girl, rewrite your story. Please, it wasn't written by me. You did. Before I even spoke, your story was already widely known. I simply restated what everyone was already aware of. Later, fans noted how that line caused the audience to gasp, as Yandy's direct delivery cut right through Rasheeda's pride. But Kirk's voice echoed through the room before Rasheeda could retaliate. You have one more chance to treat my wife disrespectfully. One more time to utter her name. You won't like what happens next, I assure you. Even Yandy was silenced by the strength of his voice. It was the manner in which he spoke, not just the words. Steady, low, and packed with a sort of anger that caused the air to tremble. The folks around them shuffled nervously for a time, as it seemed as though Kirk might truly lose control. Despite being obviously shaken, Yandy refused to give up and waited for security to intervene. She leaned forward and raised her voice once more. Kirk, what are you going to do? Do you believe that intimidating me makes you appear powerful? You appear feeble as a result. It is not necessary for a true guy to quiet a woman in order to feel strong. Although I suppose you wouldn't get that. Anger twisted Rasheeda's face. You have no right to speak to him in such a manner. You dare not. Her words trembled with humiliation as well as rage, feeling as though someone who loved to provoke was pushing you to the brink. Tensions sparked like electricity in the air as the crowd murmured. Individuals leaned forward, some muttering prayers to themselves, others eagerly anticipating the impending explosion. As Kirk appeared to be about to lose it, an older cast member who had been silently watching the entire confrontation spoke up from the back of the room. The voice shouted, "This ain't it. This isn't how it works." The room turned to see the well-respected veteran, whose weight was sufficient to break through the cacophony. In front of everyone, you are all ripping each other down here. And for what purpose? Ego and pride. The blogs you say you detest are gonna consume this whole. Furthermore, none of you will look nice. The words resonated, if only for a moment. Rasheeda blinked, her chest heaving as if the moment's actuality had finally dawned on her. The reminder of public perception caused Yandy's jaw to clench and her bravado to crack somewhat. Kirk, still furious, let out a short breath, his body shaking from the struggle to control himself. However, the piece was short. Yandy fired back, her voice poisonous. Don't lecture me about how to look attractive. I've weathered storms worse than this one before, and each time I emerged stronger. I won't be broken by this. It's simply one more chapter. Rasheeda shook her head and scoffed. One more chapter. This is your entire novel. Girl, messy, boisterous, and messy, boisterous, and